Chapter 10, page 172, August 27th. Mom says we're about equidistant from Maple Hill and the high school, and she doesn't think anyone will care which school we pick. But if we do decide to go to school, she'd prefer it if Johnny and I went to the same one. I talked to Johnny about it this afternoon. He said he wasn't that crazy about going to school, but if he did, he'd rather go to Maple Hill. I guess it's because it's familiar to him. Of course, I'd rather go to the high school. Maple Hill is a real baby school, K through 3. I don't even know if I'd fit in the desks, which is pretty funny because Johnny's taller than I am. August 28th, an all bad day. First of all, my watch stopped. I guess it needs a new battery, only it isn't like I can get a lift to the mall and have a new one put in. The clock in my bedroom is electric, so that hasn't run for weeks now. It used to be I could look out the window and get some sense of what time it was. Oh, not if it was 2 a.m. rather than 3 a.m., but dawn looked different than midnight. Only with the sky gray all the time, dawn's harder to recognize. You can sort of see the sky as lighter, but there's nothing like a sunrise anymore. So now when I'm in bed, I have no idea what time it is. I don't know why that should be important to me, but it is. When I finally did get out of bed this morning, Mom looked super grim. We had a choice of bad news. First of all, there was a killing frost last night. Leaves are already starting to fall off the trees, and now any plants that were outside have died. It feels like late October, and we all know if it's like this in August, it's going to be hell this winter. Mom had brought in what she could of the vegetables she planted last spring, but of course nothing had done very well. Tiny tomatoes, tinier zucchini. We were glad for them and sautéed in olive oil. They were a real treat. But her dreams of canning pints and pints of vegetables vanished. And I know she worried about our food supply in a couple of months' time. We spent today digging out all the root vegetables, the potatoes and carrots and turnips she'd planted. They all look smaller than normal too, but at least there's something, and we can eat them for a few days and save on the canned food. Then when Mom was through telling us about killer frosts, she said the past 2 days when she turned on the radio, she hadn't gotten any signal. We have 3 radios with batteries, and she tried all of them. We all tried all of them because nobody wanted to believe her. But of course, she was telling the truth. All any of us got was static. I haven't been listening to the news for months now. I haven't wanted to know any more than I have to. But I know Mom listens every morning for a few minutes, and she tells us what we need to know. Now, we won't know what we need to know. I guess the radio stations ran out of electricity. Matt says even the most powerful stations had their own generators. Those generators have limited capacity. But without hearing what's going on in the real world, it's easy to think there is no real world anymore. That Howell, Pennsylvania is the only place left on Earth. What if there is no more New York or Washington or LA? I can't even imagine a London or Paris or Moscow anymore. How will we know? I don't even know what time it is anymore. August 29th. Something scary happened today, and I don't know if I should tell Mom or Matt. I volunteered to do the bike run into town today. I wanted to get the feel of biking to the high school in case Johnny and I end up there. Maple Hill will do back routes, but it makes more sense to bike through town to get to the high school. Also, I had some library books to return. I don't know what we'll do when the library closes. It's open 2 days a week, Monday and Friday, same as the post office. I bundled up. Temperature was 42 degrees, and the way the air tastes and how dark it is all the time makes you feel even colder. Loaded the bike and started toward town. I was pedaling downhill on Main Street when I felt like something was different. It took me a moment to figure out what it was, and then I realized I could hear people laughing. Nowadays, because nobody is driving anymore, sound really carries, only there isn't much sound to hear. There's always a crowd at the post office, and sometimes there are people at the library, but that's pretty much it for town. I guess the hospital is busy and noisy, but I haven't been there in a while, so even though you could hear noise, there usually isn't any noise to hear. I didn't like the way the laughter sounded. It was scary hearing it, and I slowed my bike down and kind of hid in a place where I could look down the couple of blocks and see what was going on. There were 5 guys on Main Street. I recognized 2 of them, Evan Smothers, who's a year ahead of me in school, and Ryan Miller. He was on Matt's hockey team. The other guys looked to be about the same age, maybe a little older. Ryan and one other guy were holding guns. Not that there was anyone there for them to shoot. The street was empty except for the 5 of them. 2 of the guys were removing the plywood off storefronts. Then one of them would break the pane glass and go into the store. All the stores in town are empty. There isn't much to take out of any of them. But I don't know why they even bothered. It was the plywood they seemed more interested in. They removed sheets of it and put it into a pickup truck. I stood there watching for 5 minutes or so. Now that I don't have a watch, time is a guess on my part. No one tried to stop them. No one even showed up on the street. For all I know, I was the only person who saw what they were doing. Then I remembered if I backed up a block or two, I could take the back route to the police station. I don't think I've ever been so scared in my life. The gang didn't seem to realize I was there, but if they did, they could have shot me. Maybe they wouldn't have. Maybe they just would have laughed at me. There was no way of knowing. But it made me so mad to see them destroying the stores and stealing the plywood and having a truck that must have had gas. I thought about Sammy and the guy she went off with and how gangs like this must be all over the place, taking things from people who need them and selling the things to people who could pay. However they pay. So I got more angry than scared and backed up the hill very quietly and biked around to the police station. I had no way of knowing if the cops could get to Main Street in time, but at least I could identify 2 of the guys. Only, when I got to the police station, it was closed. The doors were locked. I banged hard against them. I didn't want to yell because I was only a couple blocks away from where the gang had been taking down the plywood, and I was scared they'd realize I was there. I pecked on the windows. Of course, things were dark, but I couldn't see anybody. It isn't like Howell has a big police department. We never needed one. But I figured someone was there all the time. I guess I was wrong. I tried to figure out where else I could go. My first thought was the firehouse. But then I remembered that the last time Peter came over, he said that people were setting fires in their houses to keep warm, and then the houses caught fire, and the firehouse had been closed, and they were seeing a lot of burn cases in the hospital. We should be careful with fire. It was a very Peter speech. At least he'd stopped saying we should be careful with mosquitoes because they vanished when the frost started. Thinking about Peter made me think about the hospital. At least there'd be people there. I biked around an extra half-mile or so to avoid going straight through town and went to the hospital. Things really were different there from the last time. There were 2 armed guards standing in the front of the main entrance and another 2 by the emergency door. There must have been 20 people standing by the emergency door. I went to the main door. "No visitors allowed," one of the guards said. "If you have a medical emergency, go to the emergency door and wait for a nurse to admit you." "I need to talk to a police officer," I said. "I went to the police station and there was nobody there." "We can't help you," the guard said. "We are privately hired. We have nothing to do with the police department." "Why are you here?" I asked. "Where are the police?" "We're here to make sure no one enters the hospital who isn't in need of medical care," the guard said. "We keep out people who want to steal food and supplies and drugs. I can't tell you where the police are." "They've probably moved out," the second guard said. "I know a couple of them took their families and started south about a month ago." "Why do you need the police? Has anyone attacked you?" I shook my head. "Well, it's not wise for a girl your age to be out by herself," the guard said. "I won't let my daughters or my wife go outside any more unless I'm with them." The other guard nodded. "Times like these, you can't be too careful," he said. "No place is safe for a woman anymore." "Thank you," I said, although I have no idea what I was thanking them for. "I guess I'll go home now." "Do that," the guard said, "and stay home. Tell your parents they need to be more careful with their children. One day a girl like you might go out for a bike ride and never come home." I shivered the entire ride home. Every shadow, every unexpected noise made me jump. I won't go to the high school. The only way of getting there is through town. But the only way of getting to Maple Hill is by back roads. Anyone could be there as well. It isn't like I can count on Johnny to protect me.